Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh episode of GTF, Gabriel Talks Football. I'm laughing because Greg told me something just before we came on. He's going to share it with you momentarily. Just quick programming note. Tomorrow we're back here live. Bear their souls. By the way, Dan Aguirre and Mr. Shorty have a show on tonight. What is it called? It is called Last Call at Hallis Hall with Dan Aguirre and Mr. Shorty. So make sure you check that out on the Bears Country Productions YouTube site. And we've got tons of more programming throughout the week related to Chicago Bears, also Chicago Blackhawks, Chicago Bulls. So we've got you covered here at the Barroom Network for all your sporting talk needs. Let me bring in the man of the hour right now. He is Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you, my friend?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm feeling really, really good after that victory yesterday. I thought that it was a statement. But you're telling me that it's not.
Not even close.
Tell me why.
Not even close. Well, first of all, yeah, the record says, oh, they'd be a real good team. You know what reality is? That's a really shitty football team. Okay. They won a lot of games. Do you know how many teams they have beat with a winning record all year? One. And that was the first game of the year. They haven't beat a team with a winning record since.
So, and that was way back in week one.
And in the last month, they've been the best team in the NFC North. So how is that a statement win? It's a nice win.
Mm-hmm.
It's a division win. You want to win it.
Mm-hmm.
Not a statement win. Go out and beat Philly. That's a statement win.
Mm-hmm.
Beat San Francisco. That's a statement win. But beat a shitty Detroit team with a quarterback that's putrid? Come
on. Those are all very good points. If you look at it from this standpoint, a team that has not won 2 in a row since the 2022 season or 2021 season, the week 16 and 17, a team that has lost so many division games, a team that has had trouble learning to win and closing out games, perhaps from that definition, it's a statement win.
No, it's still not a statement. They're, and I wrote this morning. It was on the defense for Windy City Gridiron. I said, why is the defense all of a sudden become good? Well, there's really a number of reasons. Part of it is the players. They got some pretty good players on the defensive side of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
But let's look at the real reason is the front seven, except for Jones, is entirely new this year. Okay, and the key player, the most valuable player of that front seven, has only been here about a month.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so, and it takes time for these guys to come together and gel. And in preseason, you had injuries going on. You didn't get Ngakwe until, he didn't even play until the opening game.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took a half a season to get these guys all on the same page. And now that they are, and it helped, I think, that Flus took over the defense. And so now, they've learned to play together. They know each other's strengths and weaknesses. They know how to play off each other and work with each other. And they're playing a lot better. So, now if the offense can do the same, that'd be pretty good. But the offense is still inconsistent. And I'm still going with the same narrative I've had for weeks. It ain't the players. that first drive was excellent, and the calling in that first play calling in that drive was excellent. Some of the other times, shoot, I get down in the red zone, and the play calling was atrocious.
Yeah, I agree with that. There's no doubt about it. Do you think that if they win in Cleveland, just to jump ahead momentarily, and then we'll get back to yesterday's win, do you think if they win in Cleveland, that would be a statement win?
It would be a lot more than yesterday. Cleveland got a good football team. I mean, hell, look what they did to Jacksonville yesterday.
Yeah, with Joe Flacco at quarterback.
Yeah. That's going to be I'll be honest, I don't expect the Bears to win that game. Yeah, I said, I've been on record as saying Flu said to win 4 out of 5. This is the one I've never put. If they win, that's great. Being on the road against a team with as good a defense as Cleveland has, that's very, very, very difficult. Good news is the Bears team is coming together at the right time. And they're playing better football. They're making less mistakes. They're making more big plays. They're figuring out what it takes to win a game. And that's part of all the maturity of growing as a team. So that part's all good, but you can't take away from their opponent next Sunday, which is a damn good football team. And it's on the road. Now, the 2 after that, they should win.
Yeah.
And then you finish up with the Cheddarheads. And that, reality is that game, if let's say they lose against Cleveland, they beat the next 2, because the NFC as a whole sucks after the top couple teams. Even with a losing record, that could be going in looking for a playoff spot.
That's right.
That game will be very, very important. And I think it'll be very, very important when, the final discussion on what's going to happen going forward.
Yeah, a lot of people are agreeing with you. Beating the Browns would be a statement type win. All right, I want to get back to yesterday's game because there was some moments that I want to talk to you about. The first one is the first touchdown that the Bears scored. You immediately tweeted out, "Look at Braxton Jones getting out there and blocking," and you will see him here a number of times. This is a DJ Moore run, but it's not only Braxton, Greg. It's like everybody on that side of the ball just threw some great blocks. Rashawn Johnson,
Patrick had a good block.
Yeah, Lucas Patrick, the center.
The point I'm making is look at the movement skills on Braxton Jones. He looks like a freaking linebacker.
Yeah, number 7.
The way he moves. And I can't get over. People think, well, we still got to get a left tackle. They're out of their mind. They don't know what a left tackle looks like yet, because that's what a left tackle looks like.
Yep.
And in the not too distant future, he will be one of the elite left tackles in the league. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This guy has got I say it week after week after week, rare left tackle traits. He had to learn how to play the game. He came from a very poor FCS program. He didn't have what the guys at Georgia and Alabama and Michigan have. Came from Southern Utah. Okay, so he was behind. And even though he was behind, he still started and played every play as a rookie. That tells you the kind of talent he has. So for anybody who even attempts to think that they got to go out and use one of those first-round picks on a left tackle, totally out of their mind and don't know what talent looks like because it's staring them right in the face.
Love it. Love it. Braxton Jones, indeed, looking really good. Now, the other play that I wanted to share with you is on the Lions' first series. After the game, Gervon Dexter was asked about the mentality of the team, and he said when Yannick Ngakoue got this sack, that immediately lit a fuse under the entire defense. And you see Ngakoue there on the circle. This was just a great motivator for this Bears defense. And interestingly, it's a 6-man rush. It's a blitz that Eberflus called on the very first series, something that he has not done much in his past as a defensive coordinator with the Colts in his first year and a half with the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, but Ngakoue also bull rushed the shit out of Decker.
He sure did. I love the way you put it.
I mean, play that back. He gets it. Decker's like 6'6", 6'7", okay?
Mm-hmm.
And Ngakoue's 6'2.5". He gets underneath him, and look at him just drive him back. He drove him back 7 yards.
He sure did. Yep, he sure did. Here it is one more time. So he gets under him. The footwork from Decker is a little messy there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but he still. But who created that messiness?
Gotcha.
And so I mean that's a picture perfect bull rush right there.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'm going to play this on a loop for a minute or so, because this is what they could do to Joe Flacco, who has about as much mobility as Jared Goff.
Golf looks like Justin Fields next to Flacco.
I love it. Just get that.
Flacco was like that. Flacco was like that when he came out of college 100 years ago.
And then the big play of the game, of course, was when the team was tied, and Chad Hutchinson, who in the post-game interviews was in tears practically because of his mental error here. He jumped off sides on a 4th down and 13. He jumps offside, and Fields has this free play and immediately recognizes the one-on-one with DJ Moore and hits him for the touchdown.
You got that play like from, okay, let me just see the beginning. I just want to see, because I heard somebody make a comment that Justin checked the play at the line of scrimmage. I do not believe that to be true at all.
Yeah.
I don't think they went to when they've got automatics that when a guy jumps like that, they automatically go into a certain play. And his cadence did help in allowing or helping the Bears defensive lineman the Lions defensive lineman into jumping offside. But, when that happens, as good as that play was, most of the time the defense goes into mode, and then they don't really compete, for lack of a better word. And those plays are there for the taking. Not all the time. But in that case, it was, because, he wasn't even covered, for Christ's sake. He had the guy beaten by 6 yards.
Good. Interestingly, Montez Sweat talked about the culture in the Chicago Bears, and I thought this was a really good soundbite from him, because it talks about something that you've been talking about, is that Eberflus has not lost this team. This is Montez Sweat after the game talking about the Chicago Bears and their head coach.
Where I came from, it was, it was kind of like just waiting on the season and kind of. But here it's like every week, it's a new challenge, and people want to play for the man beside them. Man. That's what I'm here for.
Does Eberflus have something to do with kind of setting that tone?
Sorry?
Does Coach Eberflus have something to do with kind of setting that tone every week too?
Yeah, Coach Flus is a great coach, bro. He keeps us motivated. I never seen a head coach run the team and call defensive plays, so that's new for me. But a lot of respect for him as a coach.
I think that's quite the tribute to Eberflus. And I'm not going to ask you this question, because you've stated we're not going to talk about head coaching changes until after the season. And that's totally fair.
It's got to actually happen. It's just not fair.
Yes, totally.
And as I said on, Friday when we did the show, I said, unless it becomes obvious, which meant they would have had to lose yesterday, lose next week, lose the week after, Because if you lose to Arizona, then you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
that's really a poor football team. So, but until it's obvious. But I want to say one thing though, because I had a DM conversation with another guy from Windy City, and this is earlier this morning, and he said, he asked me, he goes, do you think, he goes, let's assume Flus keeps his job. He said, who do you think he'll make as DC? And right away I said, he'll name the same DC who's the DC now. Why shouldn't he? Why fuck up a good thing?
Yeah.
Well, there's no coaches that are defensive coordinators. Yeah, but there's a bunch of them that are offensive coordinators. So why can't there be one on the defensive side of the ball?
And there have in the past. There have been in the past.
Yeah, right? So to me, why ruin a good thing?
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Andy Reid's the offensive coordinator in not name. The name's got head coach. He's the offensive coordinator. O'Connell's the OC in Minnesota, not the guy who got the DUI yesterday. Brian Daboll runs the offense in New York, not the guy who has the title. You can go all over the league and you find that out. And those coaches call the plays for the most part. So why can't you do it on the D? Now, Belichick did for a number of years.
He did. That's right. He was one of them.
So, I don't think. I mean, that's my thinking anyway. I just don't think you mess with something good. It's working. Don't break it.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the media today will ask Coach Eberflus what impact Phil Snow has had on this defense, because it seems that there is a correlation. Phil Snow enters, starts providing scouting reports for the next opponent and for the opponent 2 weeks from now. And that has had to have helped this team in their preparation for this team, because Phil Snow, as you've told me, he's a great football mind.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he's working a week ahead. He's concentrating on nothing but the opponent's offense. That's his job. And so he's working on different ways to attack that particular scheme or take away from that particular scheme. And so, yeah, that's got to be a help, because he's going to give them, in doing that, he's giving them a lot more than the pro department gives them. The pro department, when they do their advanced stuff, a lot of it is they'll tell you who can do what. You know what I mean? On each they can break down the individual players.
Okay.
But they're not necessarily getting into scheme and what the scheme does good and what to look for, tendencies, that type of thing. And I think that's what, and I could be totally wrong on this, but, I think that was the whole purpose of bringing him in, is to get that set of eyes to just concentrate. And part of it, too, is because Flus is, carrying out a double job right now, he needs that help. So it's invaluable to him.
Yeah. Yesterday on Bear Football, Danny Shim and Coach T talked about maybe the Bears should consider bringing in a senior offensive advisor to help Luke Getsy with the play calling. And it's somebody perhaps that, has had experience dealing with offenses that have athletic quarterbacks, as opposed to somebody who is, experienced with pocket quarterbacks like Getsy was with Aaron Rodgers. What do you think of that?
It's not going to change the play calling, because the play calling is instantaneous, play after down and distance, play after play.
Right.
And that goes for Flus too. Now, can it have an effect on game plan? Yes. And that means, what calls you're putting on the play sheet itself, but still it's the guy making the calls who determines what the play. If you look at those sheets, they're all down and distance related.
Mhm.
You may got 6 or 7 plays for a certain down and distance. It's not like 3rd and 5. It could be 3rd and 5 to 7. 3rd and 2 to 4. That type of thing. You got calls for different areas, but he chooses the particular play.
Bears and Cigar says, I think Alan Williams just stunk and Flus is a great DC. That is quite possible, right? That Alan Williams, the job was just too big for him.
We could say that. Are we being accurate? Who the hell knows?
Yeah, right.
Reality is he had 1 game this year, Green Bay, and then he quit for whatever reason.
You're still sticking to that story, right? Just kidding. Jalen Johnson recorded another interception, and after the game, he was asked, "Was this a statement win?"
Was today a statement win? And if so, what's the statement y'all made?
I mean, we're just trying to get to the playoffs. So, I mean, we know what we got to do to be able to get to the playoffs. So we're just trying to do what we can and just keep fighting like we've been doing all season.
How much confidence?
I love the mentality. He immediately switched that question to, fuck all that statement shit. We're just trying to get to the playoffs. We just want to win out.
If they win out, you got to compare who the wins and losses are against, because that matters, division losses and everything else. They went out. I think they might be in.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to go that way. The best way to do this is 1 week at a time. Beat Cleveland. And then if you beat Cleveland, beat Arizona. And then beat Arizona, beat Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
And then you better win the last one.
Oh, the coaching staff might get fired on the spot if they lose that last one. Although, right now, I think Green Bay is playing better than any of the division teams. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I got to look at who they played recently, though.
Yeah.
They beat Detroit on Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Detroit hasn't won a Thanksgiving game in like 6 years or something like that.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Detroit right now stinks. Come on, let's be fair. The game before Thanksgiving, I think, was the Bears game, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes.
Okay, well, who should have won that game? And who gave it right back to them?
Yeah.
Right now, Detroit might be the worst team in the division. I don't care what the record says.
Wow.
I'm saying, I'm telling you how they are playing right now. They won early, but I'm going to go back because I didn't until I looked it up. I wasn't sure who their wins and losses were against, and then when I saw their only win against a winning team was the opening game of the season, and since then they've beaten nobody.
That's wild. That is wild. They have become the darlings of the media because of the personality of their head coach, Dan Campo. He's got a larger-than-life personality. He's always got a great soundbite for the media, and he's rough and tough, kind of Ditka-esque coach.
And I told you when we had him in New York after he dragged, never said boo. Guy never talked.
Mm-hmm. Lions guy says, so if Detroit stinks, why are you guys talking about winning out then? Why not talk about?
I said they have to. I didn't say we are.
Yeah.
I also said I didn't think they're going to win this week against Cleveland. So why doesn't the Lions guy listen to exactly what I'm saying?
There you go, Lions guy. Get the hell out of here.
Let's do a Lions podcast.
There's got to be one available somewhere.
You've been trying to build up golf for the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I tweeted out yesterday, golf is what he is. And he's shown the last month why the Rams wanted to get rid of him. He's a puss and he stinks. You punch him in the mouth, it's all over. And he's been punched in the mouth a lot in the last month.
Yeah.
Been sacked a lot of interceptions.
I
7 interceptions against the Bears alone in 2 games.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Whoa. I happened to listen to a little bit of a Lions podcast this morning on the Woodward Sports Network, and they were talking about Goff doesn't deserve a long-term contract. How quickly they turn on their quarterback, and
You know what? He's right. They're not. He is what he is. Give him perfect protection. How about this? One too long ago, I was reading Detroit had the best offensive line in the league. Well, this young, shitty Bears defensive line just got 4 sacks on him yesterday.
Yeah. Well, Frank Ragnow, it was a big loss for that offensive line, and they had a center in there.
No question. Yeah, but Glasgow's played center before in the league. It's not like he's never played, and
Correct.
he's been a starter in the league. But I got my own take on that, and personally, I don't like what they did. They weakened 2 positions to put, because Gladnow is not as good as the starter, and then you had to put a backup in a guard. So now you're weaker at 2 positions. Get yourself a good backup center so you don't have to do that.
Yeah, and the thing about the Lions, since we'll talk a little bit more about them, is that it's their defense. Aaron Glenn just does not run a good defense. They've given up 28 points. Against the Saints, they gave up 28 points. Against the Packers, they gave up 29 points. Against the Bears, 26. Against the Chargers, 38. That's in their last 3, 4, 5 games. This defense is not nearly as good as they need to be in order to win. And not
as good as they were made out to be.
Yeah.
Again, beginning of the year, I mean, they were being anointed.
Yeah. Do you like Aiden Hutchinson? I mean, I wouldn't mind him as part of the Bears.
He's a hell of a football player.
Despite the brain cramp he had yesterday.
Anyway, his agent's a good friend.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
You know who I'm talking about.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about Justin Fields, his performance yesterday, because, the storyline, the narrative has been he's being evaluated just like the coaching staff is in these last part of the season, this last third of the season. I thought he had a brilliant game. And, of course, there were some mistakes. He missed DJ Moore on a crossing pattern, and there were other blemishes. But, Coach T on yesterday's postgame show said something, that I've been saying for many years about many of the Bears players that could come under criticism from fans, is players in the NFL make mistakes, even the great ones. Even Johnny Unitas missed open wide receivers.
they make bad plays, yeah. Did he play a perfect game? No. Was there inconsistency in his game? Yes. Did he play good enough to win? Yes. Did he make some big plays? Yes. He's getting better. Is he exactly what we want? I don't know if I really have the accurate answer, because I still think with a brilliant offensive line, this guy might be a lot better than we've seen.
Yeah, indeed. That is a key. Jimmy Tony says Fields is still late on a lot of his throws, probably won't ever change. There is some truth to that. I actually, on one of the red zone attacks, he had Darnell Mooney open by the cone, the near cone, on the goal line cone, and chose to go to DJ Moore at the far cone, who was a little more closely guarded. Now, he could have hit DJ Moore with a better thrown pass, but the guy to hit was Darnell Mooney.
That may be true, Aldo, but what we don't know, and I always try to say this, what's the progression? Who's number 1? Who's number 2? Who's number 3?
Yeah.
Because he's got to go through that progression.
Gotcha. So it's not a matter of, just throw the open guy.
Throw to him. Right. Well, did he even get to him? Because he's got to, let's just say, I don't, I remember the play, but I don't know what the hell the progression was. The coach has got to tell you that. But let's just say Mooney was number 3. You know, he isn't going to get to him for, right away.
Yeah.
Now, the more he plays, the more experience he gets, he will do that more quickly. Run through that progression. And he might say, let's say you call that play in the game and he went to more and it didn't work. Okay, but he remembers that. And he remembers, Mooney was number 3, but he was open. He could say, I'm going 3.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but and experience tells him that. And I'm not trying to make up. I'm just saying that that's what happens when you pick up a lot of experience. And how about this? Aaron Rodgers wasn't even playing. Justin Fields in his 3rd year. In his 3rd year, Aaron Rodgers was still sitting on the pine.
Right. Learning. Yeah. Here's the play.
Brett Favre.
Yeah. Here's the play that I'm talking about. It's this in the 3rd quarter. And I'll play it again here a little slower. But
he's open right there.
Yep.
Right. Initially, he's open. Now, but who's right there is if he's number 1, the ball should have been out of his hand when Mooney was at about the 2-yard line.
Right.
Okay, but again, what we don't know is who's number 1. Because really, in reality, on that, Moore doesn't run a real good route. He was in position to get separation coming out of that break. He was in position to get like 2 to 3 yard separation because he already had it when he put his left foot in the ground and he slowed up.
Okay. Well, and as Jeff Willis says too, you look at the quarterback's helmet, so that way you get an indication as to where he's looking. And Fields was totally locked in on DJ Moore. I don't think he even
which could very well be the case. Yeah. No, I'm not 100% sure. Go play it back.
Here it comes.
I think he gives Mooney a little look.
Maybe.
But look at the top of the route with Moore.
Yeah.
Look at the right. There he's in a perfect position to be burst out of that cut. Plants his left foot and goes. That's a touchdown. So who's it on?
It's on everybody. It's not on me, I'll tell you that.
First,
Here's another one that I thought he could have hit Komet here, but he was focused on DJ Moore's crossing pattern. Watch Komet at the top of the screen. Wide open. Come on, Justin. I was screaming at the TV.
I'm not sticking up for Justin. You got to know who 1, 2, and 3 is in the progression. And reality is DJ's been the bread and butter guy. So he's going to be going that way. That's just, because it's safe. And then as you play the game more, you're going to see, because he's going to, we see it. He's going to see that today.
Right.
Probably already seen it today. Being that it's 11:30, I'm sure you saw it a couple hours ago.
Absolutely.
And you say that, hey, look at that. And that's how you learn.
Right. Swifty wants me to play that again. He's saying that Komet is taking defensive backs with them to leave DJ Moore open. Yeah, I understand.
He's taking these 2 guys. Well, you can't see what my fingers are doing.
I understand that, but he's still open. You lead him towards that far cone on a nicely timed throw.
Right.
He's still open.
The ball was underthrown a little bit too. If he leads, but it's still not going to be a touchdown regardless. Right. It would have been a touchdown with Komet.
Yeah. Totally agree. All right. Let's
speaking of Komet, I got a bone to pick.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because and it just brings it up. Komet is having a career year.
Yes.
No question about it. He's got over 60 catches now, which already gives him his highest number, 4 games to go. And there's still yo-yos out there. Well, we got to draft Marvin Harrison and then Bowers with our first 2 picks. They aren't drafting Bowers at all, period. Get it out of their head. They just extended Kmet. And Bowers is a move tight end that, to use my phrase that you love, can't knock a drunk off the bar stool as a blocker.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
He ain't going to block a drunk whore off a bar stool.
I want that played at my funeral.
If I'm alive.
I'm sorry, but go ahead. Talk to us about Bowers.
No, Bowers was good. But, and it just surprises me that in 2 off seasons, people can't figure out what Ryan Pohl's philosophy is. Mm-hmm. It jumps out at you. It's so obvious. First of all, he's a lineman by trade. Okay. His assistant GM is a lineman. He gravitates towards the premium positions. What are the premium positions? I'm sorry, Marvin Harrison fans. One of them ain't wide receiver. Mm-hmm. Offensive line, defensive line, cornerback. Those are the premium positions. And there's a reason why in the last 10 years, there hasn't been a receiver gone higher than 5 in the draft. And that was Jamar Chase in 2020. Mm-hmm. Okay, now, if it's the last piece of the puzzle, I can see somebody trading up to take the guy they perceive as the best receiver. And I purposely said it that way because now in the last 5 days, I made some phone calls of mine. Marvin Harrison isn't a lock to be the number 1 receiver in this draft. Wow. He's the draft nick lock and the analyst lock. But there's a lot of people in the league that got a guy named Malik Neighbors from LSU as number 1.
Mm-hmm. Someone you love.
And so, and why is that? Well, he's not as tall, got long arms, he plays faster, he runs better routes, and the run after catch ain't even close. So and I'm not taking anything away from Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison is a great player, but Marvin Harrison is a product of a publicity machine that is second to none.
Right.
He's been, and part of it, his dad's in the Hall of Fame. And he had a great quarterback thrown to him a year ago. Mm-hmm. But when we do the exercise we're planning on doing, and we might want to have a long show and like show those clips that are 5-6 minutes long on each guy and go back to back to back like we used to do to separate guys, and you'll see. Mm-hmm. You'll see what the difference is. If and somebody, there are going to be people that have Marvin Harrison number 1, no question about it. But I already know there's people that got Malik Neighbors as number 1. So it's now. Could Harrison still go to number 1 and then they see you are wrong? No, it's depending on who makes the pick.
Right. You and I talked after the show last week, and last Friday, I think it was. And I said, running backs used to be a premium position, but I think that they've been supplanted by wide receivers because it's a passing league. And Swift is saying wide receiver wasn't a premium position 15 years ago. He thinks that it is now. And I agree with them. Do you think that it's a there's not one that you take in the first 5-10 picks of an NFL draft? Because there's so many coming out of college.
5 and 10. You take them between 5 and 10. Well, you just look at the numbers too, and who is good that didn't go early. Mm-hmm. Okay, you got A.J. Brown, Philadelphia. You know where he went? 51st.
Wow. I want one.
Devontae Adams, perennial. He could be a Hall of Famer, right? 2nd round. Justin Jefferson, when he's healthy, he hadn't been healthy this year. He's obviously one of the best receivers in the game. Agree or disagree?
Agree.
22nd overall.
Wow.
Tyreek Hill, pretty good receiver, right?
Mm-hmm.
5th round. Do you have to take a wide receiver in the top 5? No.
No. Look
Because
at
it's already been proven over and over and over and over again that you can get a great wide receiver between 6 and 5 and 15.
Makes sense.
5 and 20.
Pedro asked.
There's a reason why the last time a receiver went first overall in the draft was 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They're not looked at. The value of the position is a lot higher with fans than it is with decision makers.
Very true.
Andy Reid, who runs perhaps the best passing game in football, correct?
I
think the last time he took a receiver in the first round was Jackson in Philadelphia. That might have been, 18, 20 years ago? He doesn't believe in it. Okay, so now
probably does today.
Well, yeah, but he's taken 2 in the second round in recent years.
Yeah.
Or he'll get them in free agency, but his philosophy is draft and develop.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use that premium pick on them. And who was brought up in that? Ryan Poles.
Ryan Poles, yeah.
Okay, so you got to look at where a guy's been, and in Ryan's case, he's only been in Kansas City. Spent his life now with different regimes within Kansas City, but the guy before the group there was Scott Pioli, and Pioli was the same way. So it's how you develop your philosophy. Myself, I would never spend a top 5 pick on a wide receiver unless he's the missing link. If he's the missing link, different story. We got a great team. We're 1 player away. Okay. And I got a chance to take him. And if I'm a great team and 1 player away, I'm lucky to have that pick because I probably got it through a trade, like the Bears trading down. Now, personally, I think they're not going to be in the top 5 this year because they're going to trade that top pick. And that's like 2 weeks away from being the top pick.
Right. What about Neighbors? Can he play the X receiver? Swifty says that Neighbors is a DJ Moore clone. We need Marv.
He's a little bigger than DJ. He's a little bigger than DJ. Now, and Swifty, that's an interesting question. Because in this offense, you want the X to be, and this is Getsy's offense coming from LaFleur. And so LaFleur's take on the Shanahan McVay offense is that you got to have that big X.
Mm-hmm.
What if Getsy isn't the OC next year? How does that change the profile for the X receiver?
It's a great point. We won't know that until January, I'm
right.
sure.
That's right.
What about let's talk about the running backs yesterday. I love this trio of running backs, but I am of the opinion, and this is just a personal choice, I would love to see a speedy running back, a 4.4 running back, used like Tariq Cohen was used. Why are you smiling?
Because Khalil Herbert's a 4.4.
Well, why doesn't it seem like he is? I don't understand.
He's been like 4.46.
Well,
4.47, something like that.
Okay, so and he's under contracts for next season, and so now it's about re-signing Deontay Foreman. Do you think the Bears should look at trying to re-sign him? He's clearly the number 1 back.
Yeah, I think he's the best back they got.
Yeah, I think so too. So would you?
But I like the way. See, I am what's happened with the running back, and one of the reasons why it's not a premium position anymore, is a lot of people are running back by committee. And you try to get different styles, so they complement each other. And I think for the most part, the Bears have done a pretty good job with that. Roshan's more like Foreman than he is Khalil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And a year from now, he might be the best guy. I think the guy who will be third a year from now is, if Foreman is brought back, is Khalil. Because Khalil he doesn't have the skill set that the other two. He's not a good blocker, and he's a very average pass receiver. His best thing he does is tote the ball.
Right. And he got the fewest snaps of all three running backs yesterday. I'm pretty sure I'm remembering.
I personally didn't think they ran the ball enough.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I think they needed to, and that's where I think they get. That's I think one of my faults with Getsy is he gets off center sometimes instead of get that balanced attack, because this line's a pretty darn good run blocking line. They're one player away from being a great line, and that's having a consistent. Patrick has his days, but he had one penalty yesterday, a holding penalty, but it cost. Reality is it was a 35 yard penalty because it cost at least I don't remember the exact yardage on that play. It was a toss to Komet over the middle for about 20, and then he got the 10-yard penalty. So it's really cost a first down and 30 yards of field position. I don't think it was a good call that because Fields rolled out to the left and the guy turned, and so what is a good block turns into a hold. Well, the official should be smart enough to figure that out, because the defensive guys, by nature, he's supposed to chase the quarterback, and the quarterback ends up way over on the left side of the field. So if he turns his body, there is going to be a little bit of a natural hold in there. Do you call that, unless it's like really holding the guy back? And when you play the play over, it wasn't. My 2 cents for what it's worth.
Well, it's worth a lot. Got some questions and thoughts here I want you to respond to. Let's see. So Free Palestine wants, Greg, who would you pick if you're the GM of the Bears? Now, of course, it's too early, but you've stated here before that you are thinking they might want to supplement the pass rush. So are you thinking of one of the premier pass rushers coming on in the draft?
Well, here's the way I'm going to answer that.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, it's December 11th. We're not going to know for 5 weeks who's even in this draft. All the underclass, there's only been a couple underclassmen, a handful declared. They've got, except for the guy, they moved up the date. It used to be the 15th regardless, unless, but they moved it up, I think, to the 8th or 9th, so that the All-Star games can invite some of those guys to play in the All-Star. Now, behind the scenes, they're already invited. They're not supposed to be, but they already are. Because you can't wait till January 8th or 9th.
Mm-hmm.
That's ridiculous. They got to report in another week for the damn game. So the league office has got to be realistic about this.
Mm-hmm.
The only guys who have a later time to put their name into the draft pool are the guys playing in the two teams playing in the national championship. They get an extra week to declare. And so it's not until then that we actually know who's in the draft. Okay, then, there's a big process. Everybody, got to take this guy, got to take this guy. Well, see, I don't think like that. Number one, I don't think like a fan ever. I spent too much time in the front office. I think like a front office guy thinks.
Right. Right.
Okay. And I'm very methodical. Just it's the way you are in the business. You go step by step by step. You know, most teams are using last week or this week to put their original preliminary board together and basically eliminate people. And the board now is nothing more than it's stacked by the highest grade they have in their system on a particular player. And it's stacked by position, not best to worst. So you got like wide receiver stack, the tackle stack, the guard stack. And the number one is the guy who has the highest grade. Now, come April, that guy's probably not going to be the number one at that position because they're going to have a lot more information. You know, you're going to end up having, you know, at least a half a dozen reports on the guy. The coaches haven't even gotten involved yet, and their opinion matters. So you're going to have the position coach, the coordinator, maybe even the head coach. And, you know, so he's going to get involved in the report process, in the evaluation process. You got to enter those grades into the system. You got to get a medical because that's the most important part. And then there's the interviews. And in the case of some positions, you know, some positions more than others, the pro day and or private workout, and I'm a huge believer in private workouts in guys that you want to take high because number one, you know, you're not spending, you don't spend any time and you got 20 minutes to work out a guy at a pro day and you're sharing them with a bunch of other coaches. You have a private workout. You got 8 hours if you want it. You know, the guy's yours. And that's exactly what they did with Darnell White. Right. They went down there, you know, worked the hell out of the kid and really got a good feeling for him. And then on top of that, you're getting him on the board, which brings me to another point, you know, the center position. Well, got to take a center high. Is a center, how many centers can come in from college, play right away and be good? Very, very few. And with this particular offensive line, and I think we talked about this once before, is it a good idea? Because you got a very inexperienced offensive line. When you look at, you know, years of service within the league, do you have a guard sitting right now on this team? Because I don't have the answer. I don't know what the answer is. Who can come up to the line of scrimmage and make the line calls? Because I guarantee you a rookie ain't doing it.
Right.
Okay, so you got to have a guard do it. And unless that rookie is rare, can it happen? Yeah. Has it happened? Yeah, but they're very few. It's not like you see a bunch of them coming in every year. So, you know, the kid from Iowa that went to the Ravens, he's one of the rare ones. He's like a 4-year starter at Iowa, and Iowa usually comes up with some really smart, if you look at the history of Iowa linemen, they're very astute, smart, well-coached players. Not all of them are the greatest athletes, but they know what the hell they're doing. And so is there a guy in this draft? There's some guys with some really good physical traits. Okay. But is he a guy that can come in as a rookie and run the line? Because that's what the center is going to be asked to do.
Right.
So are you better off? Yeah. Are you better off going out and get a 4 or 5 year vet in free agency and pay him some money?
That's what Swift just posted and named a few potential prospects in the free agency. Got a bunch of questions here. Let's get through some of them. Creighton, even before the show started, posed this question. Greg, with your friends in the league, what have you heard about how the Bears are handling Justin Fields?
Not much, because teams don't comment about other teams' players. Very rarely.
Haven't you heard from people who were formerly in the league offer you some opinions about Justin's, and the compatibility between the coaching staff and Justin?
Well, the guy who's probably the most vocal, and I don't really know him, is Chase Daniel.
Yeah.
And the guy knows the position, knows offense. He should be a coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty knowledgeable.
Yeah.
But he probably doesn't want to have to put in coaching hours. I tell you, people don't realize how long coaches work.
Yeah.
Those guys work. They earn every penny. They work their arse off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Next question. What about Frank Reich to replace Luke Getsy? It's been mentioned a few times in the chat room. The former Eagles head coach, former Colts head coach, former Panthers head coach, recently fired. What do you think about him?
Frank Reich, I know Frank Reich. Only met him a few times, but I know him. Frank Reich, number one, he's a quality person. His offense is part his own. A lot of it is Ted Marchibroda from the Jim Kelly years when he was the backup to Jim Kelly and they had the K gun. They run a lot of that same stuff. And he's very good with coaches. He got put into an awful situation in Carolina. Through, he probably never should have taken the job because that owner might be the absolute worst owner in football. 6 head coaches in 6 years. Come on, give me a break. That's terrible. When he was handed a bad deck of cards when he went to the Colts, one of the best quarterbacks in the league quits. He's probably looked at entirely differently if Andrew Luck is still playing football, because probably Frank Reich's still in Indy.
Yeah, right.
So, but the most important thing is he's got a deep respect for Flus, and Flus has got a deep respect for him. So is it out of the picture? No. Would he do it? Maybe. Hell, he's getting paid from 2 teams now. Maybe you take the free vacation. I don't know.
That's what I would do.
Here's how that works, because it's interesting. The money that Indy owed him, the remaining money that Indy owed him, they owed him quite a bit because he had signed an extension like 2 years before, a year before. And that is offset against the money that Carolina paid him. But Carolina knows that Indy already owes him a lot of money. So they backload the contract. They pay him very little out of their pocket and let Indy pay him. Basically, it's coming out of their pocket, but they're getting reimbursed from Indy. So It's not really costing them money. And then it's not until the end of the contract that he's really collecting 2 paychecks. Or rather, then he's just getting 1. But he's not going to ever lose a penny. But you know what I mean with the...
Oh, yeah, he's got a pension plan.
No, I mean, he's got the offset. So he's going to get, he's getting every penny that he's supposed to get from those 2 teams.
Indeed. Good for him. He deserves the money. Was treated unfairly. All right. PC wants to know, Greg, what do you think about Detroit moving Penei Sewell around to change the defensive gaps? Only did it when Dexter and Pickens were in. PC, that's to me, that's a great eye. I did not notice that, and I have not looked at the All-22 because it's not available until later today. Did you notice that at all, Greg?
No, and when I do look at the All-22, I'll take a look. I don't know why unless that Dexter scares them or something, that they'd have to move him around to be on Dexter. But Gervon Dexter's gotten a lot better in the last month.
Yes, he has.
The lights turning on. He's playing an entirely different scheme that he played at in his entire college career. He was a 2-gapper in college. This is a 1-gap attack scheme. They're like night and day for what the defensive lineman's being asked to do. So, now he's putting it all together. I think he's going to be a force in years to come.
By the way, our resident Lions fan, Don Burr, is
You're freezing on me.
Okay. Hold on a second. I know why. Better now? Better now? Is it better now?
Yeah. No, now you're frozen, but I can hear you. No.
Okay. As long as you can hear me.
You're moving your lips.
You can hear
you. Now you're good.
Hold on a second. Okay.
Now you're good.
Don Burr is our resident Lions fan. He just joined us. He didn't get an opportunity to hear what you have to say about the Detroit Lions. You want to repeat it for him, please?
Don, my friend, how many games have your favorite team, the Lionesses, won against? How many times have they beaten a winning team all year?
There you go.
And if you look, you'll see it's once.
That's right.
And your team's a fraud. And in the last month, they've been one of the worst teams in football.
There
Not the worst, one of the worst.
I love it.
Carolina and Arizona and New England are below. And even New England won the other day. Poor Belichick. I don't even know. He's probably ready to, meet his creator or something. He's going crazy. He's not used to all this. He's lost more this year than he loses in his career.
Do you think he's going to retire?
I don't know. I don't know. You know what? A coach doesn't want to. A guy who's been really successful, and I worked with Bill for 7 years, so obviously it's been a long time since that has taken place. But guy's ultra competitive, and who the hell wants to go out that way? So if it's his choice, two things. I'll go turn another place around, but he's under contract, so they'd have to fire him or let him quit. Because he just signed an extension last year, I think. Right. They keep that really quiet in New England. It's like the CIA building or something. Nothing comes out of there unless they want it out.
That seems to be a trend throughout the NFL. We don't know how long Eberflus's and Poles' contracts are either. So maybe I don't know.
I don't really care. But it's a minimum of 4 years.
Yeah,
and
typically
probably 5.
All right, some more questions here. STC Scott, what do you think about Jerzon Newton? Somebody you and I have talked about, defensive lineman. He plays a lot of 3-tech for Illinois, but they also use him throughout. Yeah, I see him as a middle first-round pick and could possibly even move up higher if he has a great combine. And I'm not sure if he's going to any All-Star games, but I like him. If you can't find a outside pass rusher, maybe Newton is the guy to target in the middle of the first round.
I cannot see that happening because they've already extended Billings, and you've got Pickens and Gervon Dexter, who they really like.
Right.
Just going into their second year, it just would not make sense to me to use a premium pick on another interior defensive lineman. And as we've said, like every week for the last month, Jones is really playing good football. Now he's out of contract,
right?
But he's only making $4 million,
right?
So do you bring him back?
Mm-hmm.
Give him 4.5. I don't know. And to me, the question is, there's no question. just from a cap purpose, like people say, well, they should go out and try to sign the guy from Minnesota or Burns from Carolina. Can't see that happening either. They've already spent $24 million a year or whatever the hell it is on Montez Sweat. Okay, and one thing we know about Poles is he's going to be very wise in how he spends his money and in what position groups he gives his money to. And now I could see them trying to get Ngakoue back on a team-friendly deal, probably another 1 year. Not a lot that they do it, but I could see it happening. And then you draft a rookie high, because number one, that's the really the only premium position other than quarterback, because he didn't draft Justin, that he hasn't taken. And from a cap purpose, you want to have a guy. Robinson, they took in the 4th round, they took on traits. He's kind of fizzled out. He's been inactive most of the last 5-6 games. So that tells you right away where he fits in the game plan. So I to me, it's a lock. There is going to be an edge player taken. It's going to be high. I personally think it's going to be one of those 2 firsts. I also think that unless they totally feel that Justin just isn't the guy, that they're going to trade that Carolina pick and try to get another and end up with another number 1 next year plus what you get this year for it. And then you're going to have, dual picks in the 1st round for multiple years. But, is there any assurance that any of these quarterbacks are going to be any better than Justin?
Nope.
That's right.
Nope.
But and he's going to, and part of that equation. But they'll get it. I mean, he trades a pick. He did it in March. Okay, he's still not. He's going to do it before free agency and after the combine. Okay, but by then, if they keep Gutsy or they go out and they get another guy, that guy's favorite or how he has them ranked will be in the system. They'll know what he thinks. And they already know what, I'm sure Ryan already has in his mind who he likes, among the quarterbacks. I like this guy first, this guy second, this guy third, etc. Ian probably the same way. Does the team as a whole have them ranked yet? 1, 2, 3? No, they never do. They won't. They won't for a while yet. They'll start to do that in February. So, but the whole thing will be interesting. I just think that if it's not going to be that far off before we know. I guess what is December 11th, January, February, 3 months max, and probably a lot less than that we know that they're either going with Justin or he might flat out say, middle of January, number 1's for sale. And right there's the answer.
Yeah, right. Well, the Justin I saw yesterday, I wouldn't mind riding with. By the way, sports Chicago style, and I've confirmed this, DeJuan Johnson, the massive 6'8", 3,000 pounds, is out for the season with a knee injury. That's going to be a huge advantage for the Chicago Bears pass rush with this immobile Joe Flacco at quarterback. I know DeJuan Jones was not.
I don't know if DeJuan even played yesterday, though.
Oh, really?
Because I think he was hurt going into that game.
Oh, okay. So, well, we definitely won't see him, and that's got to be good news for Yannick and Yannick. Yeah, it's Yannick and Montez. Let's see. Josh wants to know: would you switch Tyreek Stevenson to safety to replace Eddie Jackson and place Terrell Smith opposite of Jalen Johnson if we re-sign Jalen?
I'm not laughing because of the question. I'm laughing because of the guy who would give the answer, who I already know his answer, because we've had the conversation a gazillion times when we work together with the Bears, and that's John Hope, who coaches the corners.
Right.
So I've had that conversation. What do you think, John? Can we move this guy to safety? Greg, do you know how difficult it is to move a corner to safety? Tell me, John. It's an entirely different position. A corner is playing basically a quarter of the field, and he sees a quarter of the field. A safety is playing in the middle of the field and has to cover the whole field. Mm-hmm. Everything about the position is totally different. Unless the guy is really smart and really instinctive, he cannot make the change.
Interesting.
That's exactly what John Hoke is going to say. Now, does that mean Tyreek can or can't do it?
Mm-hmm.
I can't answer that. I don't know the guy. I've never coached him, but John does.
Right.
And so if you saw that happen, it's because John believes that he can do it. But you want that free safety to be a ball hawk, right?
Yes.
How many picks does Stevenson have? How many did he have in college?
Yeah.
Not
3.
a whole lot.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Well, and I think he might be. Somebody posted that Tariq has been about average this season. Average is a great starting point for a rookie cornerback.
A rookie corner is a hard freaking position to play.
Yeah. This guy's going to get better. I wouldn't touch him.
What's good is that, well, both John and the whole staff, like both him and Smith.
Yeah.
Smith is dead. Smith was a steal. But I love Smith. I mean, I liked Smith when I did tape on him last year, recommended him to the Shrine Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Hands down the best corner at the Shrine Bowl. I thought he was a 3rd-round pick every day of the week. And how they got him in the 5th, and he runs 4.4 and jumps out of the building is beyond me. He's got real long arms. He's over 6 feet tall. What am I missing here? And then he comes in and he's playing really good as a rookie.
Pretty damn good. No doubt about it. All right. People have some player evaluation questions for you. It's early in that process, but I'll throw a couple out here. What do you think about Chop Robinson?
Love him.
Oh, the Penn State DE.
Love him. I want to know exactly how big he is. Yeah, he looks bigger this year than he did last year. He looked like 235 last year.
Mm-hmm.
He hadn't declared yet. And he got dinged up a little bit this year. I think he got a concussion or something, but, he missed a game and a half at least. Real explosive. And I think if he's big enough, he's going to be a really good pro. I like him. I mean, Letu was my throw out the injury because that's out of our control. Letu is my number 1 edge. And he stands alone. Then the next would be Dallas Turner. And the next would probably be Chop. And then Verse might be 4th.
Now, when you list those guys, as you just did, are you taking into account the Bears' current scheme and probably will be moving forward? If he
I think all those guys can play within the Bears scheme. Letu usually plays on his feet.
Mhm.
Now, Letu and Dallas have dropped into coverage. They play. Dallas Turner plays both up and down, but there are a lot of plays where he drops into coverage. That's the way they're played. Play the position at Alabama, but within this game, can he do what he wants? Absolutely. All those guys can. The only thing I want to know on Chop Robinson is what's the because he's an underclassman. We don't know what's his verified size.
Right. Hopefully we'll learn quick enough. Berlismo says Chop is going to be a third down specialist initially. I think Latu could play all 3 downs day one. I wouldn't argue with that. All right. We got a question from both Jeff and Tim. They are Notre Dame fans and want to know if you would take Audric Estime, the running back from Notre Dame, if he's available in round 3. He would make a great replacement for Deontay Foreman, and he's faster. I'm betting. I don't know for sure, but I'm betting that he's faster.
Well, do you know how fast Foreman was coming out?
No.
About 4.45.
Really? Ooh.
Really?
Wow. Okay, that's probably what
they're never. Hey, they play a couple of years and get their legs banged around. They're never as fast a few years in the league.
That's right.
I don't think. I like Estime a lot. I don't think he's going to run as fast as Foreman ran coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think he's probably going to run in the 4.5 somewhere. Guy's a hell of a back. If they were not going to re-sign Foreman, I'd think about it. Okay, but as compared to who, I think if he's not the best back in this draft, he's the second best. The guy's really good. He might not last till the 3rd round. He isn't going in the 1st. I don't see a running back going in the 1st. The guy's really good. He can catch the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He can block. He's got an all-around game. He's still a young kid. He's only a junior from New York City. He's a quality player.
Yeah.
Was there somebody else he liked?
Joe Grizz is saying, I like Estime, but prefer a scat back. And that's, you said earlier in the show, that's really kind of Khalil Herbert. If
Khalil Herbert's fast, they don't have a Cohen. What it gets down to, Aldo, is what's your run scheme? And what I keep talking about profiles.
Mm-hmm.
What's your profile for the back? They might not want that kind of guy. Fans may want that kind of guy, but the coaching staff may not.
It doesn't seem like the Bears really, have that as a high priority, a scat back, highly speedy back, because they've bypassed.
That, what do you think of them using DJ at running back for a few plays?
Loved it. We talked about him being like a Deebo Samuel type player. Why not use him the way the 49ers have? Deebo's probably the hottest player.
I agree.
Offensively right now in the NFL. Got a couple of more questions, maybe 3 or so. I'm going to save that one for last. Why, Greg, this one just came in. Greg, why are teams wrong on quarterback evaluation so often? It's a great point. It's difficult
because it's it's a hard position to evaluate.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably not as many real good quarterback evaluators as there needs to be, because more often than not, you're wrong. You fall in love with something, might be the person or whatever. And when it's a coach, a lot of times is, he's got a fault, but I can fix it. So the ego comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of gut feeling with a quarterback, and it makes up, this year, go into the year and then even go through the first half of the season. Caleb Williams was head and shoulders number 1. and he fell off. And he didn't just fall off. He hit the express elevator. And it's like he went from the penthouse to the basement real quick. And to me, you got to find out why. That is like the big question. Whoever wants to draft a quarterback, you got to talk to the head coach and their OC, who's been a head coach in the league. So, and find out what the hell happened to this kid. And they're crying in mama's arms on national TV. You know, that didn't sit well with a lot of people. Yeah. Personally, I don't give a damn one way or the other. He's emotional. He wanted to win. He didn't win. But there's a lot of people that just, and there's people in the league that thought, I don't know about him now. You know, so you got to, you notice though, Dad was real outspoken. Dad hadn't said a freaking word a couple months now.
Yeah, which is a good idea. He should keep his mouth shut. Of course, Patrick Mahomes, the big outburst yesterday. Toreen wanted to know what your thoughts were on his outburst towards the referees for calling the offsides play on Kadarius Toney. He had his body, according to the official who spoke with the media afterwards, his body was hiding sight of the ball. And so
I've seen somebody, he was offsides.
Oh, without a doubt.
Okay. Now, I've seen some things and some guy said, well, the official, and Andy said it after the game, but Andy's trying to just stick up for a player because what Andy said is a total fallacy. So, well, the official's supposed to warn the guy. That is not true. The wide receiver has the option to turn to the official and say, am I good? In which case the official does not, he's under no obligation to answer. But if he's a nice guy, he'll probably say, no, move back, you know, and let him do it. Now, here's the rest of the story. Is an official under the obligation to tell a defensive end that he's lined up offsides? Have you ever seen that? No, of course not. It's on the player.
Right.
This guy's a freaking pro. Learn where the line of scrimmage is.
Yeah.
You know, so Andy was like way off his rocker coming out. Well, they usually warn you. No, they don't. It's on the receiver to ask the question.
Rex Ryan this morning on ESPN said of all his years coaching, he has never had an official turn to him and say, your guy is offsides or helped in any way. He said that that's bogus. But it might have happened.
You often see a receiver put his hand out like this, turn to the official just to get a nod or a no. And then, you know, but again, who initiates it? The receiver. And that's fair. But again, I'm just going to repeat it last time. The official is under no obligation to even answer.
Okay. Here's that last question that I saved. Hey, Greg, now would be a good time to talk about what happened with the Ravens in the 2011 draft. And that is the
I wasn't at that draft. That was Tim Russell.
But you know what happened. Somebody told you what happened.
No, I know what happened. They had a deal. They wanted to take Karimi, to move up to take Karimi, and then Karimi ended up falling right in their lap, and so they backed out of the deal. But you know what? There's no deal until it's sent into the league.
Ravens were really pissed.
Well, they can be pissed all they want. There's no deal until it's sent into the league. And Ozzie and Jerry are good friends. Do I think that damaged our relationship? Not a bit.
Not a bit. Okay. There you go, Zach. Got time for one more. You and I got into, it wasn't a disagreement, but I responded to a Ross Reed post on X saying that, you know, the whole narrative that Matt Nagy is to blame for Patrick Mahomes' performance this season is wrong. And I said, well, that's kind of debatable because Matt Nagy doesn't respect the run game. And if you don't have quality wide receivers, why are you throwing the ball so often and critical times?
He doesn't call the plays.
But he does what I told you was he does have influence. He's in the ear of the head coach. He's in the ear of the quarterback.
Well, he's not the quarterback coach either. He's the OC. But
you see him with Mahomes all the time in the sideline.
Sure you do. But you see the offensive line coach with the offensive linemen when they come off the field, right?
Sure.
So that's his job to do that. But and I worked for Andy for a year, so I know how he works. That's Andy's show. Andy's offense. The game plan is centered around how Andy wants to do it. What happened? I lose you?
I'm here.
No, there we are. Somehow I lost you. They can make suggestions during the week when they're putting the game plan together, but the guy who puts the stamp on it is Andy Reid. And so that's his input is no more than an ordinary assistant coach. Like I said, at that particular place, it's the same with the LA Rams, same with the San Francisco 49ers, same with the Green Bay Packers. The head coach is the OC. You got a guy who's got the title, and during the week he is, running a lot of meetings and stuff because the head coach has got a lot of stuff to do. But when it comes to the important thing, and that is the actual play calls and what the game plan is, Shanahan's doing that, McVay's doing that, LaFleur's doing that, and Andy's doing that.
Do you think Matt Nagy will ever get another interview to be a head coach?
May get an interview. I don't know if he'll ever get a job.
Yeah, I thought I'd start at the bottom level and then progress.
No, you can never say never because, Belichick failed in his first head coaching job. There's guys who have failed, and you learn from failing.
Yeah.
But he wasn't that impressive overall, except for his first year. He wasn't that impressive as a head coach.
Yeah.
He started off his first year and got in the playoffs, and then it was downhill from there.
He sneaked into the playoffs one year with an 8-8 record, the last season of a 16-game regular season, and it was pretty embarrassing to have our Bears in the playoffs with that kind of a performance throughout the season.
There might be a team with a losing record in the playoffs this year from the NFC.
Wow.
Right now, the wild cards in the two wild cards in the NFC would have losing records if the season ended today.
Well, let's. Thankfully, it's not going to be over. We've got 4 more games. We've got a game against Cleveland, and Greg and I will be back here next Monday to talk about that. I want to thank the hundreds watching here on YouTube and hundreds more watching on Twitter.
We need thousands.
We need thousands, so it is your job to hit like and to share this show with others. Please do so as a favor to Greg and myself. We really appreciate you, Greg, as always.
I got to tell you, I love doing this.
Good.
It's a lot of fun. I could be an asshole and get away with it. So,
I'm going to post your comments about the Lions on social media, so be ready.
I already did it. I beat you to it.
Okay.
I appreciate all the input we get from the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Swifty. I appreciate that. It's a lot of fun. I'm going to say what I think. And as I said earlier, I do not think like a fan. And I will never think like a fan.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I'm here. Because I give a perspective that you're not going to hear from a lot of people because they haven't been in the position that I've been in. They don't have the experience that I have. So I try to play off of that experience and what I've learned. And I've learned from some of the best who were ever in the business. Starting with Bill Parcells.
And that's, I mean, you've got so many stories that we still have not even started to, uncover some of these stories.
Should we do a story show?
Yeah, we should definitely do a story show. That last Friday's Q&A.
That would take me probably 2 or 3 days just to come up with, with strong thinking of just, come up with some good stories. Now, summer, we probably couldn't repeat, but
those are the ones I really want to hear.
I remember one. You remember Mark Bavaro?
Oh, yes. The tight end Giants.
Yeah, we took him my first draft with the Giants or second draft with the Giants. Took him in the 4th round. And he was like Campbell in that, as a rookie, he didn't say a freaking word. But the toughest, nastiest guy you ever saw in your life when he was on the field. So we're in line. Training camp that year was up in Pleasantville, New York. And we're in the cafeteria for dinner. And we had a defensive lineman who was no longer with us, Lamar Leachman, who was, now I can tell you a million stories about him, but, I might get thrown in jail because, his act wouldn't work in today's world. Put it that way. He couldn't get away with it. I'd do it in private, but I wouldn't do it here. Even though, people would say, because Lamar is really a good guy, people say, oh, he's racist. I can say that but you know what? Every African-American player just loved the guy to death. So, and played their ass off for him. And he loved them. But, he's an old Southern guy, and just some of the shit that came out of his mouth was a little bit too off color.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're in line for dinner, and Bavaro's a rookie, and Lamar, who's got this, he's from South Carolina, and he's got this real heavy Southern accent. He says, "Hey, Bavaro, you really think you're something, don't you?" He said, "Jerry Faust didn't think you're very good." Who was, the head coach.
Yeah.
And Bavaro looks at him and says, "Fuck Faust." And then Parcells right there too. And Parcells looks at Lamar and says, "Lamar, you better not fuck with that guy."
Great advice from the legendary Parcells. That is so good. All right, we've got many more of those stories coming up in the weeks ahead. Draft talk, and of course, we're going to be following the Chicago Bears because I think there was a statement win last night.
It's a good win. It's a hell of a win. Win at home, second win in a row against a division opponent. Great win.
That's huge. That is huge.
Beat San Francisco, beat Philly.
Yeah, that's
beat
not going to happen.
City.
Maybe in the first round of the playoffs, we'll get an opportunity. So.
Maybe.
Got to get there first.
Making the playoffs would be a statement.
Yeah, indeed.
Especially with the way they started.
Oh, yeah. Coach of the year, Matt Eberflus. No, I'm just kidding, people. Stop.
As much as I dislike Mark Schlereth as a commentator, the absolute worst guy on Fox by far. And poor Adam Amin, because Adam Amin is excellent.
He really is.
Very, very good play-by-play guy. He just gets, I don't know, he must have done something bad that he gets stuck with this guy. So, but Schlereth did have one comment that was actually pretty good. It's almost like, Jesus, where'd you pull that one out of? My problem with Schlereth is he doesn't do any work. He does no freaking homework. and it comes out so often during a game. He uses his experience as a player, but he doesn't know jack shit about the teams he's covering, or or he's doing the color on. So, but anyway, he said, he was back and forth on the Bears all day, and which you probably know just listening. But he did say one thing. He goes, "Well, this team could very well turn out to be like Detroit last year. Started off poor.
Yeah,
I think Detroit started off 1-6.
That's right.
And then and went on that big win streak. Well, there's still 4 to go. It remains to be seen. But is it out of the realm of possibility? No. Nothing is until, week at a time.
Exactly.
Win next week, you know what? It's might be a little easier.
Yep.
That's good. It's going to be a really, really tough football game.
It's going to be perhaps maybe the game of the season to watch if you're a Chicago Bears fan. This is going to be a true test, and it's going to be that Browns defense is outstanding. So the great news is that we don't have Matt Nagy calling the plays for Justin Fields like he did in Fields' first start, which was in Cleveland, and that was one of the worst coached games that I've ever seen in my life, probably the worst.
I got to call my brother and see if he's going to the game because he's a season ticket holder of the Browns.
Well, I don't know. Interesting.
He lives in Avon, Ohio. You know where Avon is?
Avon?
Avon Lakes. He lives. It's a western suburb.
It's not associated with the fragrance company.
20 minutes from the. No, he's actually retiring the first of the year. He worked for this national company that does sewage treatment and water reclamation and stuff. And then they had the water system in Cleveland is like ancient, and they were totally revamp it, and a lot of it, was underwater revamping, a lot of tunnel work. It's like a 20-year job.
Wow.
So he originally came to Cleveland as the consultant, where the Cleveland municipality itself was doing the work. His company was the consultant. And so he oversaw the whole job, still does, but got hired by Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
Away from away from the company he was working for a long time to run that whole thing.
Gotcha.
But he is retiring the first of the year. So, and they're still not done with the project, but, he has spent, he's been there. Well, it's longer than Robin and I have been married. So he's been there over 20 years working on that one freaking job.
So he's not a Bears fan though, right?
No, he's a Bills fan and a Browns fan.
Gotcha. Well, if he goes to the game, ask him to pop in here for 5 minutes and give us his report of what he saw.
Yeah, well, he'll be working. He's retired not for another 3 weeks, and then he can. But
yeah, sounds good. All right, everybody. That is it for GTF with the great Greg Gabriel. That's a tongue twister. Great Greg Gabriel. My name is Aldo Gandia. We got more programming ahead. The best way to stay on top of stuff is to subscribe, and you will get alerts on whatever device you subscribe with, and you'll know that we're on the air live. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
See you later. Thank you.
He did good, I think he had the little mishaps with the ball, but other than that, he played good, and he's still growing and getting better every week. So these last, how many games we got? 4 games.